Los Angeles, a Tuesday night. Silver Lake. A washed-up host was mocking an old man in the back corner of a dive bar. "You think you know better? Get up there, old-timer." The host had no idea who he was talking to. The old man in the corner had stood on a stage in 1969 where a man died right in front of him. Tonight, that same host was about to make him stand up one more time. The bar was called The Rattler. Cracked booths. A dead jukebox. A chalkboard out front that read Open MIC. All genres welcome, but we will judge you. 40 plastic chairs. A disco ball nobody had bothered to take down. Stale beer in the air. An amp humming somewhere behind a curtain of cigarette smoke that wasn't supposed to be there anymore. The old man sat alone in the back. He'd walked here. No driver. No assistant. Just a man who liked disappearing into rooms where nobody recognized his face anymore. A glass of melted ice water sat in front of him, untouched. He wasn't here to drink. He was here to listen. He came here to listen, not to perform. That was about to change. And 3 people in that room had no idea how close they were standing to a piece of rock and roll history nobody had written down yet. Riley Voss ran the mic night. 28, a music degree that went nowhere. A smirk that never left his face. He liked feeling smarter than the room. "Keep it warm, folks," Riley said into the mic. "We don't do polite claps here." A kid named Eli Marsh stepped up. 22. New leather jacket, bought that week to look like something he wasn't yet. Borrowed Stratocaster. Hands a little too steady for someone that nervous. "Gonna do a classic," Eli said. Sympathy for the Devil. A few people clapped before he even started. They liked the choice. He played it wrong. Not the notes. The notes were fine. The feel was wrong. Stiff, rehearsed. A kid reading lines off a page he'd never lived. He sang with his eyes closed, reaching for a swagger that wasn't his yet. The old man in the corner stopped tapping the table. Eli finished. Polite applause. The kind you give effort, not excellence. Riley clapped him on the back. "Solid, man. Bit flat in the bridge." Then a voice came from the back. Calm, clear, cut through the room like a dropped glass. "Wrong phrasing," the old man said. "It's supposed to sit behind the beat, half a breath late. That's where the menace lives." Heads turned. Riley smiled. The kind of smile that isn't friendly. "Well, look at that," he said into the mic. "We've got a critic." Laughs. Cheap ones. "Sir, with respect, you don't sit in the dark and grade homework. Stage is right there," he pointed. "Show us how it's done, old-timer." The old man didn't move. He picked up his glass of melted ice water, set it down, said nothing. "Nothing? No comeback?" Riley grinned at the crowd, milking it. "I figured." Riley took the silence as a win. "Didn't think so." He called the next name. Nobody in that room knew what was coming. Except one man standing by the side door, arms crossed, watching everything. This song, Altamont, December 1969, is still considered the day rock and roll lost its innocence. A free concert, a crowd that turned violent, a stage nobody could fully control. Historians still argue about exactly what happened that night, but everyone who was there agrees on one thing. Nothing in music felt quite as safe again. Were you alive back then? Did your parents tell you stories about that night? Drop the year you were born in the comments. I want to see how far back this channel's family goes. His name was Sonny Reyes, 68. Forearms like rope. A faded tattoo, half a century old, fading into his skin like a bruise that never healed. Sonny worked the door 3 nights a week. Pension didn't stretch far enough anymore. Sitting home alone felt worse than standing here. In 1969, Sonny was 23, a Hell's Angel, hired muscle at the edge of a stage in front of a crowd that had stopped being peaceful. Cold that day, real cold, the kind that cuts sideways. The crowd pressed forward like something starving. He remembered a thin man in a red cape, voice cracking through a cheap PA, actually trying, to calm people who didn't want to be calmed. 40 minutes. He stood 3 feet away for all of it. Sonny never forgot that voice. The grain of it. The one specific scratch you'd know blind in a pitch-black room. He heard it the second the old man corrected Eli's phrasing. Sonny set his drink down, crossed the room, sat down across from the old man without asking. "You're not getting up there," Sonny said. Not a question. Wasn't planning to. "Altamont," Sonny said. One word. The old man's jaw tightened. "You were there." West side of the stage. 23 years old. Had no business being handed that job. Sonny shook his head. "I watched you try to talk that crowd down for 40 minutes. Nobody remembers that part." Silence sat between them. The bar noise kept moving around them like water around two stones. "I think about that hillside more than people would guess," the old man said. "We buried a man that day, and the song playing when it happened, that's the same one this kid just slaughtered tonight. Kid's got no idea what he's singing about." "No. Why would he? He wasn't born yet." The old man looked toward the stage, where Riley was already calling the next act. Bored, superior, certain of himself in a way that hadn't been earned. "But that one, him I'd like to teach something." Sonny leaned in. "Then get up there. I told you. I'm done performing. You're here because some part of you walked 3 blocks from your hotel looking for exactly this." Sonny tapped the table once. Hard. "Somebody's watching. That kid just dared you. You gonna let that stand?" The old man went quiet for a long moment. Behind his eyes, 50 years moved fast. Stadiums in Rio, a hospital hallway, a freezing hillside where stopping the music had felt like surrender. He thought about his hands, what the doctors had said. He thought about the boy on stage, about to go home thinking he'd done something right. He thought about all the rooms he'd disappeared into over the years, all the nights nobody had asked him to prove anything at all. Tonight someone finally had. "One song," the old man said, voice rough, steady. "And I want that kid's guitar. Not a house one. His." Sonny stood, walked toward the stage like a man with a job to finish. He leaned into Riley's ear, said 3 words. Riley's face changed. Confusion first, then irritation, then something paler. Folks," Riley said into the mic, polish gone. "Change of plans. Our gentleman in the back wants in after all." The room laughed. They thought it was still a joke. A few people actually started filming, expecting the funny kind of disaster. The old man stood, walked to Eli, held out one hand. "May I?" Not a demand, a question. Old world courtesy nobody in that room had heard in years. Eli handed over the Stratocaster, hands shaking. Some part of him already understood what his brain hadn't caught up to. "Before this old man plays a single note, let's set the scene right. Picture it, a dead jukebox, a disco ball spinning slow circles of light. 40 strangers who think they're about to watch an old man embarrass himself. Somewhere in this room, a kid is filming on a phone with 11% battery. No idea he's about to capture something his grandkids will ask him about someday. Comment below if you've ever watched someone get humiliated on a stage like this, and stick around because in about 30 seconds, this room is never going to be the same again." The old man slung the strap over his shoulder. Slow, practiced. 10,000 times across 5 decades. He didn't check the tuning. He didn't test the volume. He just stood there, hat still low, letting the room go quiet on its own. He stood at the mic. 3 seconds. Said nothing. Then he reached up and took off his hat. Under the cheap stage light, his face came into focus. A face 4 decades of magazine covers had burned into people's memory without them even realizing it. The lips, the cheekbones, that unmistakable look that had sold out stadiums on 5 continents. It took the room about 2 full seconds to catch up to what their eyes were already telling them. A woman dropped her drink. Glass shattered. For 1 second, that was the only sound in the room. The bartender, a guy named Danny who'd poured drinks at the Rattler for 9 years and seen every kind of drunk, every kind of heckler, every kind of nobody who thought they were somebody. Danny just stood there with a half-dried rag in his hand, mouth open, not moving. Then a whisper. A name. The same name, passed table to table, faster than anyone could stop it. Mick Jagger. He didn't acknowledge it. He turned the volume knob up 2 notches, looked at Eli once. "Behind the beat," he said. Half a breath late. Then he played. The first chord came out of that cheap amp sounding nothing like what Eli had pulled from it 20 minutes earlier. Older, rougher, like something dug up instead of played. His voice followed, gravel that hadn't been on any record, the cost of 50 years and surgeries and stages that should have killed a lesser man. But underneath all of it, the phrasing was exactly what he'd promised. Behind the beat, patient, unhurried, a voice that had already survived everything time could throw at it, and knew it. Sonny stood by the door and watched. And for the length of that first verse, he wasn't 68 anymore. He was 23, cold, standing on a hillside, watching the same man try to calm a crowd that refused to be calmed. Except tonight the crowd wasn't dangerous. Tonight the crowd was just 40 strangers finally understanding what the song had always meant. When the bridge hit, the old man closed his eyes. His hips found a rhythm 50 years of muscle memory had never let go of. Phones rose into the air around the room, every single one, the way hands rise in a tent revival. Eli stood frozen, watching the same chords he'd played minutes ago come alive in a way he didn't know they were capable of. Riley's mouth had gone dry. Every word he'd said 20 minutes earlier was replaying in his head, louder each time. The last chorus didn't get louder. It got lower, more dangerous, a confession instead of a performance. When the final note died out through that cheap PA, the room held its breath. 3 seconds. 5. Nobody clapped. Clapping felt too small for it. Then somebody near the back made a sound that wasn't quite a cheer and wasn't quite a sob, and the whole room broke at once. Chairs scraped, people stood. A woman near the bar was crying and didn't seem to know why. Danny, the bartender, finally dropped the rag. Riley stood frozen, every ounce of his smirk gone. The old man set the guitar down, picked up his hat, turned to face him. "You weren't wrong to push that kid on stage," he said, quiet enough only Riley could hear. "Every kid needs pushing sometime. You were wrong about how you did it." A pause. Respect costs nothing. It's the only thing that actually teaches anybody anything. Riley opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The old man turned to Eli. "Behind the beat," he said again, softer. "That's the whole secret. The devil never rushes. He's got nothing but time." He pulled an old plectrum from his jacket, a silver skull ring catching the light as he turned it once, and pressed it into Eli's palm. "Carried this through 1,000 shows for luck. Never once used it on stage. Some things you carry instead of use. Yours now." Eli closed his fist around it. Didn't trust his voice enough to try using it. Sonny was the last one he approached. The only one he didn't speak to with words. He just held out his hand, the way two men who once stood 3 feet apart on a freezing hillside reach across 50 years of distance, and Sonny took it, and for a moment neither man let go. Outside, the night had gone cold, the way Los Angeles nights do in early spring. The old man looked up at a sky too bright with city light to show many stars. Sonny stood beside him, jacket zipped against the chill, neither one in a hurry to say goodnight. "Haven't sung like that in a long while," he said. "Not for free. Not for a room that small. Didn't look like you minded." "No," he admitted. "I didn't." Sonny looked at him a long moment. "We buried a lot that day on that hillside. People don't believe me when I say you tried. Tonight you reminded me I wasn't lying to myself." The old man nodded. Didn't say anything else for a moment. Some things don't need more words than that. He touched the brim of his hat, walked back toward his hotel, alone, the way he'd come. A few days later, a shaky cell phone video surfaced online. 30 seconds, blurry, mostly the back of someone's head. The caption read, "Is this who I think it is, or am I losing my mind?" A few thousand views, a flurry of comments nobody believed. People in other cities argued in the replies about whether it was even real. Then it disappeared into the algorithm, the way most miracles do when nobody can prove they happened. But Riley never ran an open mic the same way again. He stopped cutting people off. He started listening to the quiet ones in the back, because you never really know who's behind the beat and who's just rushing to fill the silence. 6 months later, regulars noticed he'd started letting strangers finish their thoughts before he grabbed the mic back. Nobody asked why. He never explained it either. Eli kept that old plectrum on top of his amp for the rest of his life. Every show, every practice session, every late night alone in his apartment. It sat there, a small reminder that the loudest thing in a room is usually the thing that takes its time. Sonny still works the door 3 nights a week, and on quiet Tuesdays, when somebody butchers a classic a little too eagerly, he just leans against the frame and smiles, because some debts once paid finally feel like peace. We'll leave you with something the man himself once said, on a stage half a century before that Tuesday night in Silver Lake. Rock and roll is not just music. It's an attitude. Real music never rushes. It never begs for attention. It just waits, behind the beat, until the room is finally ready to listen. If this story reminded you of that, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We've got another Legends story waiting for you right now. And trust us, you don't want to miss it. See you in the next one.